Everybody, this is Carl back again for a discussion video. Something I've been noodling in my mind as of recent days about Star Wars. Just recently, they made an announcement about a potential. Well, of course, it's supposed to be like a Rey movie, but now they're trying to make her to be the new Obi-Wan for this movie moving forward, and a potential trilogy possible in the works. And it's like, I don't know. You did not. Now, unlike most people, I don't think Daisy really is a bad actress. I think, like Hayden Christensen back in the day, they were, these actors were given poor scripts with mismanaged blueprints to, they have to work off of. I don't think it was their fault, and you're not setting up your actors perfectly for something like this, where if the sequel trilogy would have been properly planned out instead of just doing it and expect, like, because that's Disney for the most part, Lucasfilm thing, like, oh, we'll just put out any kind of Star Wars schlock and the dodo birds will come flocking to see it, regardless of wherever we put out. They'll be clapping like seals and we'll get their dollars, and damn any other criticism. After the whole Acolyte situation, they know now that they can't just do that, and they should have learned a lesson well after The Last Jedi, and just like, okay, we need to regroup a bit. It's been hit and miss with a lot of Star Wars property projects, since Mandalorian season 2, to say generously. And a lot of crap could have been avoided, and there would have been some changes need to be made in terms of the Star Wars TV shows like The Mandalorian. Despite how the first 2 seasons were really good, the third one less so, very less so, because it's just, a lot of people have been complaining like a lot of The Mandalorian is just him doing on fetch quest crap, like it's a video game. But they kind of doubled down on it by the 3rd season. You can just tell right away, like, you see that Babu Freak looking creature from Rise of Skywalker that Mando says, like, oh, I need this droid unit that was pretty much like a babysitter in season 1, put him back online. Oh, we need this gizmo. He goes to get the gizmo. Turns out it was a complete waste of time, not using the thing. Didn't even bother to square their circle with bringing, at least thoughts of bringing this droid back to be his partner or whatnot. Completely dropped all of that. So that goes to show there wasn't planning behind the scenes. You got them, think ahead. And like a lot of it stems from the sequel trilogy, where it's just after the mismanagement of that, now you're spending all these TV shows like The Mandalorian to try to rejigger some stuff to make the sequel trilogy make sense. Now, they kind of did that with the Clone Wars series for the prequels, but the only difference is you had competent writers, you had some, map planned out, so that way, everything kind of lines up in between episodes 2 and 3, so everything, can kind of make sense in the audience's heads. You forgot what the audience wants and who the demographic is. And you got to take out these activists out of these writers' rooms. They I'm not gonna say they ain't Star Wars fans, but I don't think they respect Star Wars like it needs to be respected. So I thought, okay, what if by wave of a magic wand that we start from the beginning with the Force Awakens, despite how I really love the Force Awakens, because they kind of learned the wrong lessons where people kind of tease them like, oh, the Force Awakens pretty much New Hope, retold all over again, and they kind of like got scared and thinking like, oh, we don't want them to think like we're just doing Empire Strikes Back with the Last Jedi, so we gotta get everything, like switch some stuff around. And on top of that, switch directors because J.J. Abrams can't, got too much going on behind the scenes with all these different jobs that he had to handle, so he couldn't stay on board for the entire 3 episode movie run. That's the first thing. If you hire a particular director, if something comes up, God forbid, make sure you still have a blueprint to follow along. Even if you can't be there, everybody has a roadmap to continue forward so people can track from A to B to C. Now, despite people's grievances with certain things or certain choices that George Lucas made in the prequel trilogy, at the very least, you can still follow along. Then it didn't start with George Lucas here and then bring in Tim Burton in the episode 2, and he doesn't doing all this, and then George come back in the third one, try to fix what was going on with the second one. Wasn't all that mess. So first things first, when you bring in a director on board, stay on freaking track all through. Ignore any other job. If you're being brought on board for this, all other stuff got to be put on hold. This should be your main focus. Turns out before I really continue, please do me a huge favor. If you do be so kind, follow me in the links in the description below. If you want to further support the channel, do so by checking out my Patreon. If you want to become a Patreon member, there's a few tiers that you can join if you have some ideas that you want me to review for the show. Check out the tiers options. They're all relatively cheap here. Anyway, hey bro, what's the closest situation? What's happening there? It looks as organized as the new trilogy, or like Catholic Kennedy. I'm sorry, I missed it. But thanks for popping in, but I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Is your dialogue? I mean, what you're trying to say is kind of like all over the place. I'm just trolling about your class. Yeah. It got so much stuff in there, and I got all this like collectibles. Can't really close it or whatever. So it's fine. Sorry about that. But anyway, so. Now, they mess us, because I love Star Wars and I have so much respect for this franchise. It's one of my favorite franchises ever. But first and foremost, have a plan mapped out. And when you, got the now to be gracious, because there's been a lot of complaints about a lot of the characters that's brought on, the new characters that's brought on board with like Rey, Poe, Finn, Phasma, etc. At its core, they're not bad ideas. I actually, in general, like the character of Rey, the idea of Rey. But the main issue is the fact that these characters weren't finely tuned before it's brought onto paper or well, let's say brought onto screen. You know, obviously you writing scripts, you got to go through a few drafts, all the other stuff before you bring it to the actor's eyeballs. Yeah, Kennedy, that's another thing. I made my complaints about her. She needs to be let go. She is not the one to helm this. Matter of fact, Lucasfilm needs a Kevin Feige. It's either got to be Jon Favreau and or Dave Filoni. I know people still have their complaints about Dave Filoni, but he still has respect for this craft or this franchise. So they need to not only manage this, but aren't afraid to tell somebody no when they go off the rails without having the fear of losing their jobs. That's another thing where people who loves this franchise and have respect for this franchise, and you can tell, unlike that guy in the Acolyte on the PR tour, something like about Anakin Skywalker blowing up the Death Star. You can tell they don't care at all about this franchise because you can't even. That is so basic of a knowledge of Star Wars. It's like you don't have to be like a super fan. You could just, at the very least, have seen the original trilogy to know who done what. So don't bring on these activists. And you don't necessarily need to be like a super fan of the franchise, but at least have the basic knowledge of the franchise and understand there are fans out there who really appreciate this. So when you bring it on board, please don't, when you're on this press tours, keep your whatever political ideology you have, leave it at the door. You come to work here. Sure, we're having fun, but remember, it's still a job. So please mind your P's and Q's. They'll go on like a freaking rant about don't do the Rachel Zegler crap, on this red carpet thing. And of course, I feel personally that the new actors that got involved with Star Wars franchise, have some respect for the franchise. I don't think we can really say they don't. But they need to stop girl bossifying certain characters. Like, Rey cannot be perfect at every little thing that she does. As part of the hero's journey. We look at somebody like Luke Skywalker as inspiration. Even him is like a prime example of a hero's journey type of character where we see him train. He's not, we don't picture this. How lame would it be that we see Luke Skywalker for the first time in A New Hope, and then by Empire Strikes Back, he's doing the exact same stuff that we see in the last episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Kind of lose like the epicness and it's kind of like, okay, went from 0 to 100 pretty fast, and we weren't there to see the training period for him to know all this stuff. It kind of sucks the fun out of the journey of watching this franchise. That's how it is with this Rey character, and because I wanted to start certain characters by characters here. Because we could break this up into the trilogy, but I'm just gonna go through like how we're gonna get from 0 to 100, and you can break it off into 3-parters. Remember, it's gotta be 3-parters. So Rey, yeah, we can still have her on Tatooine, but this time instead of doing this whole who's her parents and everything like that, establish a parent. Whoever, matter of fact, it doesn't need to be both parents. It's fine, but just keep the one that is the child of Palpatine. You gotta set that up. As Palpatine's gonna be the major bad, the secret return of this major big bad after all these years, you got to set him up early on so we'll know where the end goal is. You don't bring him in part way through, by the tail end into the beginning of the final one. It's kind of like, okay, you kind of threw that in the last minute. No, set them up from the partway through the first film. That, you know, this First Order got the secret or not so secret person leading this organization, but the head honcho still Kylo Ren. I don't want to lose that part because his dark side thing turned into the, you know, turning back to the light side. I still want to have that ethos there, but that whole costume still pretty cool looking. And Adam Driver is an amazing actor, so I don't want to lose that part. But there's no Snoke. Write that completely out. Kylo Ren is leading this entire thing, but there's somebody else pulling the strings that nobody else knows but him. Because because Palpatine's a very is an evil genius and knows how to work his machinations and chess moves the right way. It's already been established from episode from the prequel trilogy and into the original trilogy. We know he can do this, so he's feasible to know that he will keep his the secret of his him living out all this time a secret while him recuperating. And of course, we see that, you know, with the TV shows like Mandalorian, they're trying to set up like, okay, Grogu is like the catalyst or making his clones in order to give him like a new body to bring himself back to life, to transfer his energy and all the other stuff. You can have that there and bring in like how this led to that, you know, in the Mandalorian. So you can still keep the Mandalorian, but now it's all interwoven and perfectly to make sense. Like, Mandalorian is pretty much a show showing, you know, under the guise of this father-son dynamic with Mandalorian and Grogu, but the finer details we get to see that, Grogu was the catalyst that explains how that where they got the idea for making these clones and harnessing force abilities for a new clone body or something. I don't know. I can just think that can interwoven better, because now the way it stands at the moment, it feels kind of forced, like you're trying to force the sequel trilogy to make sense rather than making it happen organically. So I think, like, you know, that's why I'm doing this video. So because people wondering, okay, how does somebody like Palpatine conceive a kid? Because it had to be before he got lightning in the face by Mace Windu. So who was the woman he hooked up with? Maybe it was a woman. Maybe he just, you know, he doesn't love anybody but himself. Now, you don't want to get into the R word when it comes to somebody like Palpatine, but you could play into some point in the, well, given, because I was about to say, like, maybe you could work somewhere. Palpatine met up with some woman some point along the prequel trilogy and had like a relation, like a organized marriage or secret relationship or something like that with a woman before he got lightning in the face. But at the same time, I'm thinking, like, okay, given like Rey's age, that probably would not make any sense, because she would have been in her 20s during the sequel trilogy. So given the fact, you be kind of stretching it a little bit. I think it probably better that, no, he doesn't love anybody. He cared. I won't say he's like asexual or anything like that, but I don't know. You can just say, like, hey, he's making, like, you know, spare clones for himself so he can push his immortality a bit It's kind of like, Orochimaru from Naruto, where he found like a secret to immortality via transferring his consciousness to other clones, so he can always be around his, because he doesn't want to end up like past Sith lords, where not only they end up killing each other before the Rule of Two, but even with the Rule of Two, there's always a threat that the pupil will always surpass the master. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to end up like my master or his master before him or any of that stuff. No, I want to break that cycle by establishing, no, I'm always going to be the top dog. And I'm just going to always interchange my apprentices whenever I can. Of course, they got thwarted because, thanks to Vader. Because Anakin, like Qui-Gon always said, he will be the one that will bring balance to the Force. Took a long time, but he did eventually do it. So he didn't anticipate that, thanks to Luke. But in any case, so he decides, okay, I'm going to establish some kind of, the whole point with the whole Bad Batch stuff and the clone armies and stuff. You can interwoven Bad Batch and clone armies all into this kind of stuff. Okay, taking inspiration from the Kaminoans and everything like that. Okay, so this, I don't want to end up like these Bad Batch characters. So, well, I don't, but I do, where I still have my own conscious without worrying about any kind of controller chip or anything like that. I just want to make sure this works so I can take the blueprints from this, perfect it, so that way I can always have a recycled body when one breaks down. Matter of fact, I can't believe that's very Orochimaru. I think like Naruto kind of took inspiration from Star Wars a bit here. No. This is like the whole clone thing is long after Naruto already been set up. Forget what I said that. But I'm just saying, I'm just running parallels between the anime and Star Wars right now because it's very one-to-one that I'm thinking about. Anyway, so Palpatine is just like, trying to make sure like, okay, I managed to survive the elevator shaft, whatever, that I was thrown down in by sheer force of will, mind you, just through hate from the dark side. I managed, because if somebody like Darth Maul can still pull himself together despite him getting cut in half all those years ago, I can find it feasible that Palpatine of all people can manage to just, by sheer hate, keep himself alive long enough to get to some type of escape pod or hook himself up to some machines just to keep himself alive. You can have, some mini comic, because that's another thing. Get like a Kevin Feige person involved. So like James Gunn, who smartly is doing things the right way, whereas like, no, I'm controlling not only like the TV shows, but with the movies as well. So that way the actors who voicing, like the Creature Commandos will be on the cartoon, as well as doing the live actions, in the films as well. So that way, everything's one-to-one moving forward. There's no two sets of people playing the same character from two separate things. No, make sure, I don't want to say micromanage, but, trying to keep everything on track. And have some type of mini, like the Tales of the Jedi kind of stuff. That's, matter of fact, that is a perfect time for Tales of the Jedi. Instead of wasting time on characters that we already know a good deal about, like Ahsoka, because she really didn't need like a little mini story, because we pretty much got, well, I think maybe like the baby stuff. I don't think we really needed that. But I think it's pretty cool to establish like a little story, like how she was trained in order to survive thanks to Anakin Skywalker, so she can survive Order 66. That's fine. But I think get those, instead of like that woman that Ahsoka was trying to go after in her TV show, we don't need no mini story regarding her in like Tales of the Sith. We can just have like a mini story showing how Palpatine survived, so that way, because these little TV shows need to blend better with the sequel trilogy, so that way it can all like connect. So people who watch this can look upon the sequel trilogy like, yep, it all tracks thanks to what I saw in this mini show that I saw over here. Boom. That way you can always like, instead of going up and down, it's like, boom. Okay, so now, so we pretty much like setting up like the Dark Lord in order, like, okay, how he is like, still lurking around. So now let's go to Rey, and like, the clone thing. One of the clones, became, I don't want to say self-aware, but we're kind of already established that in like Mando with Moff Gideon's little clone thing. They're alive and conscientious. So one of them, for Palpatine, manages to escape, but it looks slightly different. So we can cast somebody completely different, and have them somehow escape and hide away. And Palpatine just like gave up on it and just moved on. Probably didn't last too long, given the fact that how like egotistical he is. He doesn't really care. And let's say to give him like a good year trying to search for this thing, but then eventually give up, just assume it's dead or something like that, or built in to the point where it's like, oh well, Master, the one of the scientists can say like, oh Master, this defective clone, it won't have like long to last. It wasn't really complete, so it will probably eventually die out in a month. Little do they know that he managed to make it well beyond a month and just kind of hidden away over a year until he kind of set up shop somewhere else on Tatooine, met up with a girl, had a daughter, and the wife passed, so now it's just like the son and the daughter, pretty much mirroring the what was that uncle, Luke's uncle, forgot his name, Uncle Owen, pretty much mirroring the whole Uncle Owen and Luke situation, where she has somebody and she is like helping, well, not on like a moisture farm, but like a junker or something like that, so that way she still have her little staff and she knows her way, in on the dunes and all this other stuff. But hint at, don't overdo it, but hint at her capabilities of the Force that he caught wind of when she was very young, but when she tries to really harness it, he catches her. It's like, no, don't do this. And of course, he doesn't fully explain to her, keeping it a secret, because that way you can see her potential as a Force user. It's like, and he's trying to stamp that down because he still thinks, because the Force Order is still lurking, so he just assumes if they find out that this young girl is a Force user, they'll try to take her and him run experiments and then find out who their lineage is. It doesn't bode well for them. So he's trying to make sure, keep that a secret. But she doesn't know that well. She's still like young, so now like kind of grow older into her 20s and she's still like in secret playing around with the Force a little bit, lifting little stuff, not great big things, just like, and also can just sense certain things, like somebody trying to swindle her and her father out of some good credits. She, gently touched the Force a little bit just to influence the dealer, like, 1/4 portion. It's like, are you sure 1/4 portion? Like, how about 5? And she doesn't do it like purposely. She just kind of like just offhandedly said it, and the Force kind of guided, kind because she's just that. She just she's kind of like uh, like a prodigy thanks to her genes. But the father kind of picks up on that, but doesn't say nothing until they walk back. Like, what I tell you about using your gifts. Like, I don't understand why I gotta keep it a secret. Like I told you, all will reveal when you're old enough. And it's like, I'm old enough now, and it caused some kind of inner conflict, kind of like the situation with Uncle Owen and Luke Skywalker when Luke doesn't know his lineage, and he wants to go out there and fight with the rebellion and everything like that. And of course, Uncle Owen doesn't want him because he got too much his father in him, and he can just mirror that. It's like, just say it to himself, because like I said, you can still have the wife around. Maybe, I don't know. I say you could have a wife around so he can, the father can have something to bounce off of when the kid is not around. But it's like that's the problem. Like she has too much of a grandfather in her. But then of course you can get that perfectly set up. Then of course you still have Finn. I mean, Finn. I keep confusing him with Poe. You still got Finn. Finn now is part of the stormtroopers, working under the First Order, with Kylo Ren still leading the charge, trying to still build that mega Death Star thing. Still have that, and you're trying to find the BB-8 unit, sure, whatever. But like I said, it's not finding tune. I'm just coming up stuff like in the past day. I've been thinking about this kind of stuff, so it's not really finely tuned. I'm just giving like a ballpark stuff here. But then you got Finn establish his arc. That's the thing. They kind of dropped the ball on Finn, and poor John Boyega did have a really good time behind the scenes working with Disney, and it could have. Like I said, none of these actors were, they was doomed to fail because of mismanagement, and it wasn't fair to them because they are great actors, and it wasn't right how they were treated, and they should have better stuff to work with. But they're actors. They came to do the job, but they should have better material to really have something to chew on. But yeah, you can still have them be like a stormtrooper. Unlike stormtroopers of the past, each of these New Order people have a mind of their own, but they are addicted to the power, and it's like, yeah, they're pretty much just bullies in suits essentially. But somebody like Finn has a conscience, and you can establish that he was an orphan and was kind of brought in, like, established there was some kind of antagonistic rivalry or something like that between him and Phasma. You could set it up, and it's coming off the top of my head right now. You could set up where Finn was orphaned himself, got found by Phasma, raised by her, and brought into the First Order as like a young cadet, whereas she's pretty much like a pseudo mother to him. And because I'm thinking something like in the first Addams Family movie, where Uncle Fester, who had amnesia, is pretty much getting looked after by this swindler woman who's under pretending to be like the mom, but it's kind of like a very abusive kind of relationship. And it's kind of like that, where it's like he doesn't want to disappoint her. He looks at her like a mom, and he was raised by her, and he had nothing, and she kind of abused that part, taking advantage of that part, his need for acceptance and family and stuff like that, and she can abuse that. And you can lightly touch on possible physical abuse if he kind of gets out of line, because she is still technically a stormtrooper, but like a very fanatic one. And you can really lean into that, but still keep the whole Boba Fett thing where you don't see her face. That you can do little subtle flashbacks or something, or you don't have to waste screen time with flashbacks. But if you want to do it, do not show her face. Always keep that kind of silhouetted, or established that she was a stormtrooper with the original white garb, but she managed to avoid, like after the whole Return of the Jedi, destruction of the Death Star, and all that other stuff, she went into hiding. Still had her suit on, but found this young orphan boy, begging and possibly malnourished, and she felt pity and took the kid under her wing, kind of situation. And then once the First Order is kind of being built up, and she comes back, and now she's kind of like lead general, and with like a shiny armor, just to make her distinct, and with prior knowledge of how like it brought the knowledge of the previous order into the new order to train new recruits. But Finn, who has a conscience, still followed orders, and but after many horrific things that he probably had to do as a stormtrooper, finally took his toll. And that's where he wanted to okay, I gotta figure his way out of this, and he doesn't want to run to his he doesn't want his mom, a pseudo mom, to figure it out. That's where you can still establish like Poe Dameron being his way out, kind of situation. Now we got like the whole Poe Dameron situation. Now you're trying to do the whole Han Solo thing with him. That's fine, but stick with it. But at the same time, look, the whole mutiny thing, get rid of that. Establish that he is, because I watched all like the TV shows, even Star Wars Resistance, which was terrible, but at the very least it shows that he has pretty much like the because he was a guest star in that animated show, shows that he is part of the Rebel Alliance for a good period of time. He's not like a grunt anymore kind of thing. He's he's well recognized. He has like maybe not a captain, but like a lieutenant or something like that. So he has some credentials. He's not a rookie. So none of that mutiny stuff. General Leia or Queen Leia, and forgot that Holdor woman. Look at him as somebody respectable. Maybe not on the same station as they are. As a matter of fact, I don't even know what position Holdor is in. Is she some type of politician or something? I'm not sure. But he should be more outranking her than her to him. But General Leia should look at him as like somebody respectable that she can trust. Just because he has like this old cowboyism similar to Han Solo shouldn't negate the fact that he's a good soldier, he's a good friend, and I can trust him with these plans because he never had any kind of history of betraying them. He's always, fight the good fight. He's like I won't say the golden child, but he's pretty much like the Clint Eastwood of the Rebel Alliance. He's the one that people can trust and follow their leads. The Captain America, essentially, and that's what they should treat Poe Dameron as. And that's what I would have leaned into. None of that mutiny crap. They like tell him everything that he needs to know, so he can, sure he can like give like a legit reason why he goes off the reservations. If there is like a legit need to. Now that casino crap, I don't care. Nobody cares. I mean, if you still want to bring in Rose, like you can still have the motivation about the dead sister and everything like that, but none of that other background stuff. That was motivation enough. Rose is also just a soldier, fighting a good fight, and I'm carrying on this, because she was originally just like some kind of engineer or something like that, but she took up her sister's position as a pilot working under Poe. Give her that kind of motivation to like carry on the fight for her sister, and she can still be part of this. If you want to give her own story, that's where comic books or TV series are for. So that way you can follow on her path. Then if you want to bring up something like a Casino Planet, blah 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 blah, that's perfectly suitable for comics or perfectly suitable for a TV show. That's where you can play with what you will, but not in the movie, because we don't, by and large, that does not match up with what the grand scheme of things, what we're trying to follow here. Because on its own, you can talk about how like certain people, warmongers, can are benefiting for the war and everything like that, but I'm pretty sure the same thing can be said with the prequel trilogy. Same thing can be said with warmongers in the original trilogy. But we didn't waste time talking about that in those movies, because Clone Wars TV show, they have quite a at least a couple of episodes relegated to those who have profited off the war. But that was perfectly fine there. So that's how I would handle that. And of course, Kylo Ren. Now this would be a perfect opportunity, because he was a tutelage of Luke Skywalker. However, unlike the whole situation with the whole Snoke thing, leave that out. You can just perfectly find where because to bring up Naruto again, I see Kylo Ren because given the fact that he's the grandson of Anakin Skywalker, and with the little bit of Han Soloism in him, he can easily be like a prodigy like Sasuke Uchiha or the Itachi, essentially, where he can still be trained, but he is so even as a 2-year-old, he was very proficient with the Force. Kind of like Grogu lifting that rhino. It's kind of like that as at 3 or 4 years old. But then trained under Luke Skywalker underneath his new branch of Jedi Order. And that's perfectly fine to show Ahsoka and Cal Kestis, Star Killer. Obviously don't call him Star Killer anymore, but it's a perfect opportunity to show that there is a new order with these Jedi that we are familiar with from and Mara Jade. Bring in Mara Jade is a perfect fine, because little by little they've been trying to eke in legends here and there, but no, just fully embrace it. Okay, people like legends. You don't have to take everything, but you definitely mine certain things from it, like the whole what's that blue guy in Ahsoka? I don't really care for that general. You took some stuff from Legends regarding him, and so you could just go full tilt. I don't want to say full tilt, but just it's okay to bring in Mara Jade. Establish Mara Jade in this franchise. You don't have to go totally in her backstory in these films. That's where TV shows and comic books are relegated to, so that way you can get the full picture and how it leads to her meeting Luke. But a lot of people who are familiar with the Legends could easily infer from the films that these two got together at some point and established they had a kid. Now, you can bring in the kid later, not right away in the first film. Matter of fact, I know they had a kid. They had a son, didn't they? But Mara Jade, I think, should be the one to be like the Obi-Wan to Rey. Mara Jade. Because I know they had a kid. Yeah, Ben Skywalker. Yeah, but you also got, Kylo Ren, whose name is Ben. Man, they really screwed a pooch on that one. I don't know. They probably should not have called him Ben, Han and Leia's son Ben. They should have just gone with Jason Solo as Darth Cadus. But I guess you can just like not go with Darth Cadus and just give her Ben Solo and give Jason to Luke and Mara Jade. It's not cool by most Star Wars fans, but I think we can by and large probably get over it eventually if it's still played decently. But let's just go with it, okay? Jason Skywalker. We'll just go with that. We kind of switch things around, but let's go with it. So, Jason is around still, like relatively, like will be the relative same age as Rey, but he's probably introduced maybe the second film in. But Kylo Ren, Ben, is got like with Itachi, or where he's like I won't say Itachi, but like Sasuke got corrupted because he I don't know, he shows something where he abandoned Luke's order and kind of exiled himself. Whereas like, he didn't take in he kind of learned about Anakin Skywalker, his rise and fall. He kind of took the wrong lessons and wielded his power like with impunity without temperance, in a sense. Okay, I'm just spitballing here. Where just to lead into his own corruption rather than some outside influence. And then eventually Palpatine learned of him and got his feelers into him and kind of really cultivated that feeling into something worse, and got into his head, and he became Kylo Ren like we know. And he is like the main face in a way for him while he's doing his own private stuff unbeknownst to anybody else besides like a few scientists or whatever. While and Luke is not on his private island, in exile, none of that crap. People want to look at Luke as like the ultimate hero, not like some old hermit. That sucks. We like that fact that he had that optimism that we saw in the original trilogy, and just take it to his next level, where he's a wise master at this point. And he has his own son, and still teaching a new generation and everything like that. And of course, we don't have to establish Ahsoka and Cal Kestis and Starkiller visibly, but you can see maybe like a mural, or or not a mural, but like kind of like a plaque or something like that of the original founders of this new order, along with Luke. Again, it says the name Ahsoka, Cal Kestis, Starkiller, those names. Matter of fact, let me look this up, because I keep calling him Starkiller. I know he has a freaking name that he went by. Galen Merrick. Yeah. Yeah, we can still establish like, okay, Galen Merrick. But we can like establish them some point in like a TV show or a different movie altogether for them. That they were like the founders of Luke's new Jedi Order. That would be cool. To show that everything's kind of interwoven. Well, it'd be kind of like a little. You don't need like a plaque or anything like that because the Jedi Fallen Order games didn't come out until long after the sequel trilogy has long passed. But for the sake of argument, that they were the founders. Mara J, on her own, tried to find her nephew, who was one of the students at Luke's academy. And she, was following a trail because, let's for the sake of argument, let's say she was following a trail because the whole thing with the BB-8 and like having this information that Poe slipped in, you can still keep that about the whole new Death Star and what have you. But when they, we still have Poe and Finn teaming up instead of like fake dying or everything like that. They both land there. They both escape as like, kind of partners in crime. And they end up bumping into Rey on her way home, after do some more deals at the bazaar and everything like that. She senses the good in them and seeing like these stormtroopers looking. It's like, okay, follow me, takes her to her home, and hide them out until, laying low, of course, to the parents' chagrin, knowing like what trouble it can bring. And then of course Mara J shows up, kind of like in a way where Qui-Gon showed up at, and met up with young Annie. She like shows up. These two kind of these groups kind of merge together, and Poe Dameron blurts out like, "Oh, you're Mara J. You're the wife of Luke Skywalker." This kind of triggers something in the parents, because especially the dad, who would know who Luke Skywalker is, and like, oh my God, fates are like forcing this kind of stuff. And Mara J senses, who these, who he is and what his daughter is, and had some kind of conversation. I was like, look, I know who you are. I can sense it. You're a Palpatine, ain't you? You're not the Palpatine, but I sense that, like some essence of him on you, and it kind of forces him to come clean. But this kind of like caused some kind of conflict between, because he kept a secret from her, and she, he had that kind of same, I know it's kind of cliche, it was like that kind of forced conflict between him and the daughter. It's like, I can't believe you kept this from me this whole time, trying to get all of them away so the stormtroopers can come knock off the parents, forcing her, she has no, kind of the Emperor Uncle Owen kind of situation. Like, I said some awful stuff to him, and like, that wasn't fair to him. I feel sad, but I got nowhere else to go. But that's where it kind of leads her, pretty much pseudo adopted by Mara J, and they go to meet up with Queen Leia, or General Leia, and it kind of form like a unit. And so now she want to be part of this because this First Order was responsible for taking away her parents. But Mara J expressed that you're not ready for this, but I can train you if you allow me. So this is like the key part that a lot of people was complaining, where it's like, okay, Rey isn't going to just be good at everything. She's going to take some lumps while learning the ways of the Force and using a lightsaber. So, like with Cal Kestis, she actually had to go, similar to Luke, how he went to Dagobah on his own little adventure. She and Mara Jade go on their own little adventure to go find her own kyber crystal. And none of that crap with like the thread and some bull crap with the acolyte and none of that stuff. Establish the fact that they got kyber crystal. They got to go on their own journey and find the one that suits her. There's color coded for a reason, depending on your own personal aura, like you see in like the Jedi Survivor. And she gets her own particular saber, and of course, before all that, she gotta learn how to train. And the training isn't, rapid. By the tail end of the first film, she should establish again her own saber, and she's pretty much like the young apprentice to Mara Jade. And if you establish a good female role models from the jump, none of that girl bossifying. It shows like, yeah, these are well-established female characters. They're cool in their own right. You don't need to go, prancing around, calling things the Force is female. None of that crap. Just let things be and show, don't tell. Mara Jade is already a well-established, awesome character in her own right, and let Rey do so herself. And fully, by the end of the trilogy, she should be fully embracing her Palpatine line and changing that name from something that's bad into something that's positive. That shows it can be a force for good and not a force for evil. It's a long, arduous task. And since they want to establish a trilogy with Rey, giving her own little story, how about like showing that journey of her trying to do what she can to make the Palpatine name mean something for a force for good, and it's a long, arduous arc. It's not going to be easy because Palpatine has hurt a lot of people throughout the galaxy, and that is like something that she has to work her way through, probably one planet at a time. But of course they probably won't do that. But I'm just saying, because I'm not going to call her no Rey Skywalker. That's so dumb. Don't kill off Luke Skywalker. I mean, if you're going to kill off Luke Skywalker, it should be at the tail end of the third film and have it mean something. None of that crap dying on a rock or something like that because it's dumb as a Force ghost thing. That's so dumb. Of course, you don't have to be going out on a blaze of glory, but something akin to like Obi-Wan and Anakin, not Anakin, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, where they still was fighting, but learned to accept, what is, and it's like, but die for something, where it makes sense, because it didn't in the Last Jedi, because that seems so haphazard to me. And of course, the whole situation with General Leia, I know it's a little tough, given the fact that Carrie Fisher have passed. But if you're gonna do this, like, you're probably gonna have to show little of Leia as possible and use CGI / AI, which I'm not a fan of AI personally, but if it was going to use for anything, you got to get permission from the family if you want to do it, so that way it can feel okay. So, if you give it the family, the surviving family, give it okay, then we can, go ahead and go along with it. Give her like her death meaning, like if Kylo Ren's going to shoot her out of the into the space and everything like that, then let it stick instead of making her Superman herself back into the pod, and then that leads into a whole confusing mess. No, have her die doing what she is known for, leading the charge, because like George Lucas said, Who you think the main hero is? It's Princess Leia. She's gonna die leading the charge with some freaking honor and dignity. She's a war hero, and it kind of makes sense. She probably would have died as one, but understand she like still had that connection with her son and to forgive him and everything like that. And of course with Han Solo, he still keep that fact that he's want to save his son. You can still keep that whole little arc and that Force Ghost thing with him and trying to give him, because it'll be the father, like with Luke and Anakin, is Kylo Ren and Han Solo, that dynamic that brings Kylo Ren back to the light side thanks to his father. So you can keep that because, of course, Harrison Ford doesn't want to do it anymore kind of situation. And of course, like I said, the whole, you got to take out that whole Hordor maneuver. You know how cool that looks? That entire movie, it needs a rejiggering, point blank period. If that means we have to lose that epic scene, so be it. We'll have others. And of course, somebody has to pull, like Luke will have to be the one to pull a Obi-Wan Kenobi, because if we're going to lose anybody, it still has to be him, but at the end of the third film. Mara Jade can still be around, and then of course it's still established they have a son, or at least maybe a couple of them, because whatever, but there'll still be a lineage of Skywalkers to live on. I know people want to get away from the Skywalkers, but I still think we need some lineage of the Skywalkers still around, so we can still play around with that, go back to that, well, if we need to, because we don't want to cut that off completely. We can take a break from it, but if we need to have one of the children of Luke to take on like a different separate adventure altogether, we can just yank that off the shelf at any point. Just saying, because I know people kind of get bored with the Skywalkers, but they still need to be there. It's kind of like a cat. It's like you gotta make sure, like, you want your cat, make sure your cat's still around, but you don't have to worry about them being all up under you if you don't need to. That kind of thing. Just make sure you're just there, because we'll need you eventually. Oh God. General Crux. I think General Crux was fine because he's kind of like a little weeb. Somebody to like, kind of like abuse, for Kylo Ren to abuse at some point. Crap. I'm trying to go through a list of mainline characters here, because that's pretty much like the gist of my ideas here. To establish, like, of course you can break it off into 3 parts, but of course reestablish Chewie and none of that stupid fake out death with him either. That was dumb altogether. And make sure him and Leia hugs early on and stuff like that after Han dies. Could keep that. And then Lando, you can still introduce Lando in the same spot as in the final movie, but then you do this grand battle sequence with all these ships against the forces of Palpatine's troops, and established early on, like, the whole line with Poe Dameron is like, somehow Palpatine survived. It was like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Make that known early on so that line doesn't seem stupid. But then once they have that big endgame battle and stuff in the third film, it feels more earned in a way. None of those space horses, because those are stupid. You can still establish that Finn finds other AWOL stormtroopers and everything like that. As a matter of fact, instead of that, black chick for him to like potentially have like a thing with, you can establish that Finn, who if you want to lean into the fact that he might be force sensitive, establish that early on when he trying to save, Ray for something, and he kind of force pushes something out the way, where it said, oh, now these two can establish kind of like a bond and a potential relationship. Because these two seem like more akin to go together than her and Kylo Ren with that stupid force kiss. Not force kiss, but like, the kiss that was forced upon them because of the writers. Because it seems kind of weird and out of nowhere. None of these weird and out of nowhere kisses, like, Finn and Rose, and it's like, that part is so stupid. Just establish like they're all platonic friends, but somebody like, matter of fact, Poe and Rose seems more ideal because they in the same kind of field, and they can establish. If you want to establish some type of relationship, you can have these two work together on the battlefield with the ships. Establish like a relationship early on, a friendship, then a relationship, and early on. And then similar to Finn and Rey. But then, leave Phasma alive all the way till the end, so that way he has to go up against Phasma, and it's like, I'm my own person. He wants to save his mom because he still took care of her, but she's so fanatic. He had to be forced to let her go, and she dies on her own petard kind of situation. But he shows that he's on his own journey by leading these AWOL stormtroopers in a way or something like that, to like establish that he's not the only one, and he wants to help them. And you can establish in like a TV show or something like that that Finn is like finding a place for these stormtroopers to go, or like relocating them, things of that sort. What else? Shoot, I'm blanking on something. In the final battle, the Knights of Ren. There was a comic with Kylo Ren showing off the Knights of Ren. I only read like a couple of issues. I don't think I read it all. But even still, it's like that was, you set up that stuff in a trailer with these Knights of Ren people, and you do not use them at any point. You completely abandon that. That is so dumb. That's what I'm saying. Like, you do not, like, you wasn't planning properly. And if you want to establish that Kylo Ren has his own little crew, his own personal hit squad, essentially, that answers to him, then you better set up to them early on and they get taken out one by one by these other advanced Jedis like Mara Jade and Luke, where it's like, yeah, they're strong, and one of their weakest ones, or matter of fact, you can have like, Mara Jade take on a couple of them, and it's kind of like a stalemate or something like that, or she managed to take out one of them, because it's like 4 or 5 Knights of Ren. It's kind of like, like Jedi Fallen Order is him like taking on these other sisters and brothers of like the Sith, where the weakest of them take on Rey, and she put up a struggle, but she just managed to put out a win thanks to her fundamental teachings by Mara Jade, but she just barely makes it, but with some cuts and bruises because of the fight, because it was so intense, and showing that somebody, who's supposed to be like the weakest among the Knights of Ren still put up so much of a fight that she was left like, it's kind of like Dragon Ball Z kind of situation, where it's like Raditz was already giving Goku and Piccolo so much trouble, and he was the weakest compared to Nappa and Vegeta. That's how it should set it up. Because that, just to give you a good clarification how that should play out. So that way, when she heals up and learns more from Mara Jade the next few steps, then she can take on the next level, when she runs to another nicer Ren, she can be better equipped to take him on. So now it's a little bit more even, and it just build up and build up, and so that way, by the time still have Rey be the one to take on Palpatine, and instead of like those stupid voices, it'll be a lot more impactful if you see the Force ghosts behind, summoned by the Force generated thanks to Rey using her powers, pretty much inherited from Palpatine himself, showing her level of skill where she actually summoned these ghosts to lend her strength, lend them their strength to her. We see Mace Windu, Anakin, Yoda, Plo Koon, all the dead Jedi that we happen in like the Clone Wars series and in the original trilogy, and we see Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon. We see all of them, and with an astonished camera pans to Palpatine, who is in astonishment, seeing like the looks on all these Force ghosts of people that he like utterly caused like harm because of his machinations. It's like, yeah, we're gonna end you, for once and for all. Your evil that you wreaked for like a good 50 so years. I was like, oh, we're finishing this. And they lend her power just for her to give that edge over Palpatine and take him out. And of course, you can still establish like a Force Ghost Luke at the end to give that extra boost. It's kind of like, the whole, Goku lending his sons his extra power for that bigger Kamehameha kind of situation. I'm using a lot of anime as examples here, but that's just in a general sense of how to, like how I would set up like a coherent enough sequel trilogy, so to make it easier for the TV shows that come later to make a lot more sense, rather than trying to force, in reverse things to make sense in what was set up before that wasn't making sense. It was something else I want to say. Crap. Of course, yeah, embracing the Palpatine name. Okay. And then she, pretty much like, you can still have, Mara Jade takes over like Luke's order, or she can just decide to live like a peaceful life and have, if you want to set up Rey as the new Obi-Wan, then have her take over the Jedi Order with a new batch of kids that she'll be taking over and teaching. That way, what you'll set up later will feel a lot more earned than it is right now. Because it doesn't make any sense to a lot of people. It's like, oh, we're supposed to clap like seals because, oh, we're bringing back Daisy Ridley as Rey. It's like, oh, wow, of course, give us more. Ignoring the fact that how poorly set up it is. I have no problem if your plan was for her to be like the next Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's cool. But you did it so haphazardly, it doesn't feel earned. The way I kind of set it up, in a way, it feels like when you get to that point, it's like, yeah, she's been taught by Mara Jade, and of course you can still have her being taught by Luke, as like, if Mara Jade has to go out and deal with something, so like Luke was trained by Obi-Wan, but then got passed over to Yoda. Similar could be done where Mara Jade has to handle like some personal business, so she's finally like ready to learn the tutelage from Luke Skywalker himself. As soon as she goes to him, kind of thing, can take her teachings to the next step. So that way, by the time her own trilogy comes about, she learned from two of the best teachers that she can. Oh, I remember what I was going to speak about earlier. Don't kill off Kylo Ren. This is my personal take. I think you can do a lot more with his character. Like, he came back to the light side. He's answering from his crime. So yeah, by the end of the trilogy, he gets locked up because he still caused a lot of catastrophe. He caused war crimes, but you can bring him back when it's like there's a situation that we need help in. Ray's busy, Mara Jade's busy. Nobody can't find their kids, but they're not experienced enough. Either way, so we need your help, Kylo Ren. It's kind of like Eddie Murphy in 48 Hours. Like, this kind of stuff. We need you because I don't know. The Knights of Ren had secret apprentices, and they're trying to build up a new order of Sith. You know how the Knights of Ren work. We need you to take them out, and this is kind of be like your your penance kind of thing. So work his way back into everybody's good graces by atoning for his sins. That way, you can still have Kylo Ren in future projects. Him just doing something like that. That's just me off the top of my head. But that's how I would kind of like fix, in a way, this is me from a couple of days of thinking about this, how I would structure the sequel trilogy for it to cohesively make sense from point A to point B to point C. Whew. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, that was a lot. Like I said, it's not finely tuned, but it's just kind of like, okay, the characters are fine, but the order that you have them in, it was like seemed very out of order. I forgot about that mysterious girl that Poe knew, that you don't see her face, but you see her eyes behind the mask and kind of thing. You can probably leave her out because what purpose does that serve? Maybe you can use her to bring in more help from maybe the underworld, from the seedy underworld, to build up the rebel forces a little bit more, so you can have a legit army. So yeah, I think that's what they did. But but you could have set her up maybe in a second film and out of the trilogy, so that way you can establish there was a relationship between her and Poe back in his early days, and so that he has a kind of he's kind of like a playboy back in the day before he joined the Rebel Alliance, and probably got a little bit of learn how to fight for something besides himself, kind of like with Andor in a way. But yeah, that's how I will fix the sequel trilogy, just to make it make sense, and from there you could build off a proper TV series. But once again, I did not want to neglect to say this. If you're building like a blueprint, and you start with a movie at a time, for example, give it once every 3 or 4 years. So that way people can sit on it for a while, let it permeate the zeitgeist for a little bit, have us wait patiently for the next one, anticipating all the other stuff, instead of just trucking it out every 2 years, because that's obviously not enough time to live with it, because there was a good separation of time with a lot of the movies, especially the original trilogy. So that way, every time it comes back is a major event, is a big deal. And that's what we need these movies in Hollywood to be, not all of them, but a good significant amount of them to be major deals, treat like a huge party, similar to how Endgame and Infinity War was, or the first Avengers was, how Barbie was, how this new Wicked movie is going to be, because everybody's coming dressing up and everything like that. Star Wars was like that. You have to treat these epic events that's kind of these massive parties everybody wants to be involved in, but that needs to have some time need to service that, because you make the audience waits. Don't treat them like consumers. to like your loyal customers that they have feelings, families, needs and wants and things of that sort. Because I know it's a business, but don't forget the creativity out of this creative business at the same time. Knowing where you're getting your dollar from is coming from your everyday people who escaping their mundane lives to escape, mind you, of everyday stuff. Don't force everyday stuff into your fantasy world because that kind of makes them roll their eyes and not enjoy it as much. So you go to these things to escape. None of that everyday Monday crap we see on the news all the time or from politicians all the time. We just want to enjoy our sci-fi fantasy and make this an event. That's what you need to do. And that will, that's what make the Star Wars franchise is the lovable juggernaut that it is. But if you keep trunking it out like every so often, then it becomes less special. And it just become another product that you're shoving down our throats. Whew. Well, that's it. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you like my ideas at all? Because that's just like, it seems kind of long-winded, but this is just me, spending at least a day or two just mulling this over and like having to go through each character to see if they have like a particular arc that you can interweave into the greater scheme of things of dealing with the First Order and Palpatine once and for all. But let me know if I missed anything or what would you change. Anyway. Like I said, it helps if like everybody's on the same page behind the scenes. And mind the budget. That's another thing. I don't want to skip that. Mind the budget. Not everything has got to be worth $200 and some odd million because that will tend to bite you in the ass. Just find like a good guy that can budget the films and know which dollar needs to go to what and cap it off. Okay? You got to pay the actors this certain amount of money, and you got to pay like the director and the writers and the grips and all this stuff a certain amount of money, and you need this particular technology to service this particular scene, all this other stuff. If they all together round out to somewhere between 80 to $100 million, then meet in the middle and make it 90 million and work off of that. Because I guarantee you, as certain movies like Deadpool shows, I know they can't compare Deadpool to like Star Wars, but it just shows that you can do a lot with little. It was forced you to actually use some creativity and some practical effects, and that will kind of pay in dividends in the long run. You got to look at don't look at the short-term gain all the time, because long-term is going to bite you in the ass. So you got to look at the long-term gains. Anyway, that was my thoughts. I'm already rambling, so I will see you guys tomorrow for a couple of movie reviews. Going to have to do I think I still can do it Thursday. Because I think I'm going to be busy Friday evening. Let me double check my calendar. I can, because I'm thinking to myself I'm going to have to do some stuff a little early, but no. And never mind. Well, I don't know what I'm going to be doing for streaming tomorrow. But Thursday, I'll have a couple of movies to review. But in any case, take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a pleasant evening. Peace.